So sometimes something will happen in your environment to you or to someone you care about. And as this thing happens and you focus upon it for a while, you feel strong negative emotion that we would call the opposite of that empowered, worthy feeling that is really who you are. And that emotion you might call grief. It's that sort of emotion where you can't get any air. You feel suffocated. And so some bright, shiny, well-meaning student of Abraham sees you in your depression and points out to you that you are the creator of your own reality. And that depression is going to get you nowhere, and you should shape up. You should seek joy. And what you'd really like to do is just take a gun and kill them. Because hard as you try, from that depression, from that strong disallowance of who you really are, in that vibrational funk that for whatever reason you find yourself, you do not have access to ecstasy. You don't have access to passion. You don't have access to appreciation or to joy. You don't even have access to irritation. You don't even have access to overwhelmment. In other words, from that deep, 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 deep vibration, any more than when you turn on your radio, you can hear a song played that is being broadcast from one frequency while you've got your tuner set to another. In other words, it just doesn't line up. There is no connection. So when you are in that strong disconnection, and you are trying to follow what Abraham says, which is find a thought that feels better, the best thought that may be available to you from your depression is one of rage. And what we want to say to you here today, in a way that you really, really hear it, is that if you find that thought of rage, and if you stew around in it for a little while, you will notice that you feel better. Now, those watching you from the outside are not going to encourage you into your rage. They liked you better when you were depressed. Because when you were depressed, you sort of went away and left them all alone. Only you know that the rage is an improvement, because only you know that you can breathe now. Only you know that this is an improvement. And what we want you to hear is that if you know that it is an improvement and you stop and momentarily pat yourself on the back for choosing a thought that felt better to you, and if you are able to disregard the clamoring of all those bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, sunshine, rainbow, lollipop, sickening people that are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and who want you to be too, if you can disregard what they're clamoring at you and say to yourself, wait a minute, I feel better, then in that moment, you've got your power back. In the moment you show yourself that this thought, even though it's not the best thought you've ever had, even though it's not the best thought anybody's ever had, it's an improved thought for you, now you're on the mend, because now you're back in control. I'm thinking this thought of rage, and I got to tell you I'm enjoying it, because it feels so much better than the suffocating depression I was feeling before. But now here's the most important part. You don't want to get stuck in the rage either. So the new mantra is, no matter where I am, I'm going to try to find a thought that feels a little better. And think about what that means. No matter where you are on the vibrational emotional spectrum, if your goal is to feel a little better than you do, you're going to feel a little better than you do. And if you stop and say, I did that, I'm in charge, I am empowered, then you can reach for the next and feel better, and reach for the next and feel better, and reach for the next and feel better. And no matter where you are, you can go wherever you want to go until you're right back out into that good feeling place with all of those other happy people that were a little hard to take earlier. Getting the sense of this? Now, the key that we are amplifying here is your own personal self-empowerment. And we think that's what's been going wrong with so many who have tried to counsel people who were in deep disconnection from who they really are. Disconnection's too strong a word, but when you get into that place where you cannot get a breath of air, it feels like disconnection from life force itself. And if you are in the midst of that and you are then able to consciously affect a little relief and you can say openly, I feel so much better than I did, now you're off and running. So then think about it. So you go from that deep depression to that feeling of anger. Let's call it rage for the moment. And then as you're reaching for something that feels a little softer, you know how your anger has many different depths. There are some things that make you so angry you can hardly stand it. You want to spit nails. And there are some things that make you angry, but they are less angry. And so within that in other words, you can go through your address book if you want to and find the ones that make you really angry and the ones that make you not so angry. But if you are deliberately feeling your way through this and acknowledging, oh, that feels better, I think I'll stay here for a while. Ah, that feels better, I think I'll stay here for a while, you can go from depression to rage, to anger, to serious irritation, to aggravation, to overwhelmment, to frustration, to hopefulness, to softly believing pessimistic sort of, to anticipating, to a little eager anticipation, to believing, to knowing. And there you are, right back to who you are. But you don't do it all at once. Now, the thing that throws you off sometimes is that some subjects don't matter that much, and so you think, wrongly, that you have jumped the full spectrum. Because some things you just don't give a rip about. And you know, if you really don't care about something, then you don't go into depression when you can't do something about it. But when you care deeply about something and you feel that you are powerless, then you go into that strong negative emotion. Are you getting the sense of this? So we think that what confuses so many of you so much of the time is that on some subjects you are easily able to make the jump. And then you beat up on yourself because there are some subjects where you cannot easily make the jump. And all that means is you've been practicing the other thought longer. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you're not a good creator. It means this vibration has a stronger hold in your vibrational pattern, but never, ever, 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 ever does it mean that you can't move the vibration. You can every time, no matter what. You've just got to decide to. So as we talk about being deliberate creators, and you've been listening to us for some time, many of you, encouraging you not to stay on that negative thought. Sometimes people will sit in the chair and they will want to spew all of their problems about where they stand, and you've heard us not listen to them, not want to encourage them, want to get them off of it. But we want to say to you, each person that sits in the chair, we are assessing where they are vibrationally, and we can tell how easily they will move into another place. What we are wanting you to understand here today is that nobody knows but you really where you are, and nobody knows but you really whether you've made any improvement. So two things we think would be very helpful. You have to say, nobody knows but me. They don't know. And then you have to say, but I do know. I can feel where I am vibrationally. And then the new mantra that we would offer if we were standing in your physical shoes is, nothing is more important than that I feel good. And I'm going to try to follow my bliss. But let's not try to jump all the way from wherever I am into bliss. Let's change it to say, I'm going to reach for the best thought that I have available. I'm going to reach for the best feeling thought on this subject that I have available. Now, the reason we're saying on this subject is because if you will take the time, no matter how you are feeling about whatever it is that you're feeling, and we promise you, if you are in the depths of despair, if you are feeling strong negative emotion, something really, really matters to you. It matters. It matters enough to figure out how to get a different vibration about it. So what we would encourage you to do is stop and say, what is it that I'm feeling? What is it that I am feeling here? And see if you can identify it. See if you can find the word that matches it. Different people mean different things with different words, and so you're not listening necessarily to anyone else, but you're trying to find the word that best exemplifies the emotion that you're feeling. And once you've found it, stop and smile and pat yourself on the back and feel pride and say, my vibrational indicator is letting me know where I am. And how important is that? Because everything that you feel is the vibrational range between where you are and where you want to be. Every single emotion that you or anybody else ever feels, everything about your creative experience, everything about life is about where I am relative to where I want to be. And so don't you think it is helpful to know where you are? When your gas gauge on your automobile reads empty, do you take a hammer and just beat it out of the dash? Stupid indicator. Or do you go fill your tank up? In other words, you appreciate the gauge. It lets you know something that is very important. And your emotions are that kind of gauge. And so when you feel negative emotion, it's a pretty apt analogy too, because full and empty, connected and not allowing, in other words, the allowing of who you really are, when you feel those negative emotions that you would call being on empty, so to speak, you don't want to throw a fit. You don't want to beat up on yourself. You want to do whatever you can to get a little more in your tank. You want to do whatever you can just to feel a little bit better.